About 13 years ago now, Whitechapel rebranded themselves and took a bit of a turn with their self-titled album, straying away from the crushing pure heaviness of their early deathcore releases and incorporating more mainstream metalcore and gent sounds. The subsequent albums found themselves kind of chasing that same sound, never really quite dipping back into the deathcore sound that they started with, or at least that pure essence of deathcore that they really branded and started and kind of pioneered in a lot of ways. They were one of the early bands releasing demos on MySpace, things like that, but they never really kind of fully incorporated that back into their sound, and showed us that they were willing to push themselves forward, incorporating things like clean vocals, which at the time was sort of blasphemous. Personally, I enjoyed this. I felt like it showed the band was willing to actually try things and not just stay in one stale genre or stuck in just one kind of sound. It felt like they were actually willing to push themselves in new directions, but overall it was definitely a mixed reception. The peak of the sound was with their album The Valley, and I felt like this was really their ultimate work altogether, because it did bring back a lot of the just the pure brutality of their previous work, as well as the clean vocals that they had been working with, the guitar work that they had kind of been pushing with, the interesting sounds, the kind of progressiveness of everything. And it really also managed to bring back the idea of a concept album, which they had not really visited since the Somatic Defilement EP. And it told a story that only Whitechapel could within the confines of the metalcore, deathcore genre. And it's something that I felt like really kind of hit a high point for them. Their follow-up to that album, Kin, kind of felt a little bit too much of the same. It felt a little bit flat for me. It wasn't exactly a bad album, but it never really quite reached the same highs as The Valley did. And that brings us to their latest album, which is called Hymns In Dissonance. Hymns represents a true return to form for the band in so many ways. Right off the bat, it hits you with this droning and repetitive guitar note reminiscent of more of their previous work, not quite their early work, but more so their previous work, kind of letting you know what you're getting into, until the backing guitars and the beating drums and Phil Bozeman's just absolutely nasty gutturals come in, and there's just this layer of filth that's covering everything, this atmosphere that they're building with all the instrumentals and the vocal work and the lyrics and everything. It feels like you're being lowered into the depths of hell itself. And that's kind of the point of this album. It is also a concept album, this time telling the story of a murderous death cult trying to resurrect a long dead god. It's something you can hear and that's told within stories like Diabolic Slumber and Hate Cult Ritual. The concept is embedded within the music, but also the lyrics themselves. Everything just kind of comes together into this descent into madness. One of the things I like about this concept and that I like about this album overall is that it does a good job to not glorify this murder cult. The horrible things that they do in the name of resurrecting this god are presented as just absolutely ruthless and savage. You get the idea that this cult is not only destroying each other, but destroying themselves in a way, and just absolutely wrecking their bodies and their souls, all in this name of this long-lost deity. And the best part about it is through the album, when you get towards the end of the album, you realize that everything that they've done leading up to this point was for naught. And it's really capsulized in the ending track, Nothing Is Coming for Any of Us, where you get this just absolute sense of despair. And there's almost this sense of this cult kind of turning to themselves and wondering, what have we done and what happened and why is this not working, basically. And it's really distressing. It's a really nice depressing feeling that it kind of leaves you with. It's not a happy album, which is definitely par for the course for deathcore, and it's just something that really sets the mood and the atmosphere. if you've been craving a true return to form and a true return to deathcore for the band Whitechapel, this album is definitely for you. We really haven't heard them sound this heavy or this brutal since This Is Exile. And again, they really haven't created such a good, just unrelenting and bleak sounding album in quite some time. And like I said, I feel like The Valley was the penultimate album for them in the sense of it kind of incorporated everything they had started since 2012 self-titled, but this is them dipping back into the past and showing that even after over 20 years of making music, they still have it. They can still write an incredible story. They can still make incredible mood and atmosphere. It's hard for something that's hard for really any band to pull off, and Whitechapel have just absolutely nailed it.